Hey there, family. Welcome back to Blending Love with the Lutes and Beccas. My name is Charity, and if you're new here, welcome. So today I want to talk about a transition that our family recently made. We transitioned and took the leap of faith to homeschool our children. Now, if you are new to our channel, welcome. We are a beautiful, big, blended family. Okay, we are a family of 9, my husband and we have 7 beautiful children. And I was a single mom of 2. My husband was a single dad of 3. And we came together, and then we had twins. Okay, so going from 5 children when we got married to now 7. All right, but that's not what this video is about today. All right, as I stated, we recently transitioned from public school to homeschool, and I'm going to talk about the reasons why we decided to homeschool our children. Now, some of these reasons may resonate with some of you, okay? But this is something that we decided that would be best for our family, our household, and our children. And so as a former teacher, I used to be a teacher in the classroom before becoming a stay-at-home mom after having our twins. And this year is when we finally decided to go ahead and take the leap of faith and homeschool our children. Now, reason number 1, okay? The first reason we decided to homeschool our children is for, first and foremost, during a time of prayer, it was impressed upon my heart for me to pull our children out of public school. Now, this was something that God had really been tugging on my spirit with for some time about pulling my children out. And so that was the first reason, okay? But that connects to some other reasons that I'm going to talk about. And as I stated earlier, before I became a stay-at-home mom, I was a teacher in the classroom. And so as a teacher in the classroom, there were many things that, I got to observe firsthand. One being is the teacher relationship to certain students, okay? Where I would observe teacher favoritism, right? Or biasness, where you would have teachers that were biased to certain students. Maybe it had to do with different cultures. Teachers who, didn't grow up around a lot of diversity, maybe coming in from a lot of rural areas and not understanding different cultures, different languages, and not understanding how to navigate and transition those cultural differences. And I would see children be treated very badly. And from a parent standpoint, observing that real time, I would think to myself, sometimes as parents, yes, we work, but it's really important to be actively involved in your children's education and coming to the schools, checking on them, because you just don't know sometimes how your child is being treated. And you would have the expectation that adults are treating children with care, but not every person, okay, really loves what they do, okay? And I've seen that with teachers where sometimes it was just for a paycheck. But again, understanding that there are cultural differences, that people come from different backgrounds. And sometimes when you're not exposed to lots of diversity and lots of different backgrounds, sometimes that could be a barrier. And in my experience, seeing those type of dynamics, how it could really damage a child, was one reason. Also, another reason, taking my children out of school, increased violence in schools. Okay. Many of us have heard, if either you've had experience with it firsthand or hearing on the news, the many mass shootings that have taken place in school. You think that when you send your child to school, they should be safe, that school should be a safe place. But in the day and age that we live today, that is not the case. And anymore, with the way that society has gone, and children maybe have access to guns or weapons, that parents maybe are not really paying attention and being aware of in their home, and coming to school and making schools places that are unsafe, were generally, they were safe places. When I was growing up and going to school, that was not something I ever had to worry about. But my son, our oldest son, who we didn't homeschool him because he graduated, he's now in college. But when he was in high school, he had to go through metal detectors every single day at his high school. And I remember when they sent out the email to parents letting us know that they were putting in metal detectors at the school because they had an incident where a student had brought a gun to school. And it was very unsettling. I remember like my heart sinking, because it was like, okay, when did we come to the day and age where, okay, children are going to school and, sometimes kids were patted down and they're going through metal detectors. And so that was another reason why, the increase in violence. Also, another reason was a lack of discipline, okay? Even from a teacher's standpoint, a lot of times, even as a teacher in the classroom, when you didn't have that administrative support or parental support, when you were dealing with extreme disruptive behaviors, disrespect in the classroom, and then that affects the good students, right? When my kids were going to school, they knew, because here in our home, there are consequences for you not following the rules. And so the expectation was, you go to school, you go to learn, you respect every adult, your teachers, your peers. And if you didn't, then if the teacher was to call me, they already knew what was up, okay? Their teachers knew that their dad and I had the teacher's full support, as long as it, was in line, right? And so that was another reason why we decided to take our kids out of school, because I would have at times, one of my daughters who's in middle school would come home and tell us about disruptive behaviors in the classroom, maybe from one or two students, and they were rarely reprimanded, how it would disrupt learning. And then that affects the ones that, are on task, are there to learn, and they just have to deal with it. And so even experiencing it myself, where, there are kids who, because of lack of teaching, lack of parenting, behaviors that are not being addressed, and then it affects the entire classroom. It affects others who are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that's just not fair. And then when you have the parents, from a teacher standpoint, when you go in and you try to get them to be a liaison and to have a partnership to work through this parent-teacher relationship, well, if that's not there, then it just becomes a place of chaos, where it's supposed to be, again, a safe place and a place of learning. And so that was another reason why we decided to homeschool our children and take our kids out of school. Another reason why we decided to take our kids out of school was, I've taught in both public school setting and private school setting. And my last teaching job was at a private school, and I taught 4th grade. And my biggest class size was 16. I was able to experience the difference between teaching in a public setting versus a private setting. And it makes a difference as a teacher when you have smaller class sizes. You are able to give your students more one-on-one attention. You're able to catch things. You're able to even structure the lessons and give students what they need. And if something doesn't work for one, I was able to navigate and change those things. And I really appreciated that. And so I wanted that dynamic at home, where, just having a setting where I'm able to be with my kids, giving them more one-on-one attention. Because I noticed in the public school settings, there were gaps. I could see the gaps in my own children, things that they were missing. And then when I would go to conferences, it was just like they were just kind of passed along, and those things were really not addressed. And so from an educator standpoint, that bothered me, because I realized it's like, okay, one, a lot of times, teachers do their best, but with having such big class sizes, instead of having that time to really address and hone in on what a student needs, or maybe restructuring it, to where it's more individualized for them, that's not there. And at home, I'm able to do that for my children. And so that was another reason. Now, all of these are tying into reasons, like I stated earlier during my prayer time. Yes, I am a believer. Yes, I am a Christian, and I do follow God. I have a relationship with God. So if you don't subscribe to that, this is not for you. But during my prayer time, it was impressed upon my spirit. And the Lord did speak to me and let me know it's time to take your children out of the school system. And like I said, it ties back into one of the reasons, which was violence in the schools. And the Lord impressed upon my spirit that this would only increase, as we continue in this time of life. And so that was one of the biggest reasons, was because, one, God said so. And so there was an urgency to do so. But all of these other reasons had been leading up to that, where I had been praying and I had been seeing all of these things, the things that I mentioned, where I was feeling very uncomfortable in my spirit. Like I said, our oldest son, thankfully, he graduated on out, and so he's now in college. And so my husband and I really began to talk about what that would look like as we were praying. And we both then clearly heard God say, okay, yeah, I'm begin to make the transition to bring them out. And so we had to really talk about, okay, what was that going to look like for our family? Now, we are a blended family. Like I stated, my husband came in with 3 girls. I came in with 2 boys, and we brought our families together. But both my husband and I are full-time mom and dad, meaning that I'm mom to everybody. He's dad to everybody. They don't transition out of our home to their other parent, and that'll be a video for another time. So we had to come together to see what that was going to look like with us transitioning to homeschool. And so we came together, we prayed about it. We decided on the date that we were going to bring them out, because we did bring them out shortly after school started. And that, navigating it, it was a new thing, but I'm grateful that we did it. Since homeschooling, we're able to spend so much more time together, getting to know each other better, able to, help fill in the gaps that I was seeing before. Because before, as a working parent at the time, seeing those things, I didn't have all that time. I was going into the classroom and I was teaching, and then coming home, and then being full-time mom and cooking and being wife and all those things. And I didn't really have that time. Now, since coming home, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm a teacher here at home to my own children. It's been such a blessing. Another reason I didn't mention is wanting to instill our values into our children and not allowing them to be influenced by the values of this world system. With so much influence in this world for children to be swayed to telling them to be everything except and outside of who God created them to be. That was one big one too, where I remember picking up my daughter from school, one of my daughters from school. She's in middle school, and there was a student that came out, and she had on this cat costume and whiskers. And I asked her, I said, did you guys have like some sort of party? Was it a costume party? And it wasn't around Halloween time. So I was kind of confused. And I remember my daughter telling me, she was like, oh, she's a furry. And I'm like, what? That was foreign language to me. It's like, what is a furry? And she said, oh, she believes she's a cat. And she was like, oh, they have a club for that type of thing. And so, if you believe that you're an animal, they support that type of thing. And so, there's so much confusion now in the world. And so my husband and I, again, with praying, come together and just knowing and understanding the values that we want to instill in our children, knowing that now and in the school systems, children are able to, talk with teachers and talk about personal things, and parents don't have to be made aware or come in on the conversations. Even as a teacher, as they begin to change some curriculums or come in and that's one reason why I got out of public education, telling us that we had to accept certain things and certain things we didn't have to reveal to parents. And that I knew that went across, that went far across what I believe in, because at the end of the day, a parent is a parent and they should be involved in every aspect of their child's life. And so as a parent, we knew that was not something that was in line with us as parents, where you're telling my child that they could be a man when they're a girl, or you can tell my son that if he wants to be a girl, you don't have that place. And so that was another reason why, we decided, okay, yes, we're going to go ahead and homeschool, because then we're able to instill the values in our children that we want to instill in them, and not have them exposed to every opinion, have them exposed to everything of the world outside of what it is that we believe, outside of what we're instilling in our children. And so that was another big reason why we decided to homeschool. So those are just some of the few of the reasons that we decided to homeschool. This is part one. So I will come back with part two. But since homeschooling, like I stated, just the time that we're able to spend together. And then what I like about it and what my children have been enjoying is it's laid back. I hated the hustle and bustle in the morning. For me, before coming home as a stay-at-home mom, and that'll be a video for another time, how I transitioned from being a career woman to now a stay-at-home mom. But it was always rush. I never felt like I had enough time. It was high level of stress. I was the one dropping everyone off to school in the morning before then I went to work. And so, well, not everybody, my mom and my father-in-law helped me, but at the times where they weren't available, then yes, it was me. Because my husband worked third shift, so he wouldn't be off by the time it was time to get everybody to school. And so just the rush with waking up, at the crack of dawn, getting everybody ready. Then by the time I had my twins, then thankfully my mom was keeping them. And so getting my twins ready to get them to my mom's house, and then start the transition of dropping children off to 4 separate schools before I had to be to my school in the morning, then to start, my day for teaching. It was a lot. And so now with homeschooling, we're able to set our schedule, and we work our schedule around what works for us. Generally for the most part, we usually start about 10:30. But sometimes, if I may have an appointment, or my husband I have some things going on, then we can do it later in the day. And I've really enjoyed that. It's taken away the stress, the hustle and bustle for my kids. They're able to get the rest that they need, and I'm okay with them not having to get up at the crack of dawn. We're able to spend that time in the morning where I can get up, cook breakfast for everyone. And it's just, it took the hustle and bustle out that was so stressful for everybody. And I've really appreciated that. Also financially, we talk about with 7 children, well, really for the 5, because, our twins, they're 2, they'll be 2 at the end of this month. And so buying supplies for everybody, that eliminates, you know, the cost. And I'll have to talk about in another video, you know, the curriculum that we're using. I've supplemented some, and so I'll come back in another video and talk about that. I don't want this video to be too long, but I just wanted to share that yes, we have transitioned to homeschool and talk about some of the reasons why. There will be a part 2, and hopefully my hubby will be joining me for that, because I know he said he wanted to talk about some of the reasons, you know, why he wanted us to transition. But it has truly been a blessing. I'm enjoying it. It feels really good. And so I'm grateful. But I encourage you, you know, if you resonate with some of these reasons, you know, in the description box below, if you're a homeschool parent, you know, share what were some of your reasons for decided to homeschool your children, and what's the difference, you know, that it's made. Are you enjoying it, or are you not enjoying it? You know, let's get a conversation started. But we're enjoying it. I love being able to be here with my children full time, and just being able to get that time back with everybody. It feels really good. And so there's just a few of the reasons why I would decided to transition to homeschool. So I hope, you know, that this was informative. I hope, you know, that you guys got something from this. If some of you are thinking about homeschooling, why, you know, have any of you dealt with some of the things that I talked about, you know? Like I said, there will be a part 2, because there's some other reasons why we decided to homeschool. But yeah, first and foremost was, yes, through the leading of the Holy Spirit. Once the Lord began to deal with me, you know, and started dealing with me about what's coming ahead, and how the violence is increasing in the schools, that was my first and foremost, you know, okay, it was absolute, you know, at the leading of His Spirit. And then coming together, talking with my husband, we both prayed. He got the same unction in his spirit, and so we knew that it was a yes. And this was, like I said, already after we had been talking and observing some things. So I really knew that that was just God's confirmation of letting us know what you guys had been feeling, the uneasiness you had been feeling in your spirit, the things you had been observing, you know, is right on. It's time to take them out. And so that is what we did. So I hope that you all have enjoyed this video, and until next time, there will be part 2, so stay tuned for that. But until next time, be blessed, and we will see you all in the next one, family. I'm out.